You receive a message at 4:47 p.m. It comes from a coworker who has been reviewing something you wrote. Can you clarify this part? I'm not sure the argument follows. That is the whole message. No insult, no exclamation mark, no obvious hostility. But the timing is bad. You have already revised this section twice. You are tired, and one sentence on a screen has managed to make you feel judged. The first reply appears almost automatically. I already explained that. You do not send it, but for a moment it feels satisfying. It feels like the honest answer. Then you imagine what happens next. The conversation will stop being about the unclear paragraph. It will become about your tone. The other person will become less cooperative. A small editing problem will turn into a social problem. So you erase the sentence. You write, "Good point. Let me clarify what I meant." The second reply is better. It is more useful, more mature, and more likely to solve the actual problem. But it also raises a strange question. Why does the worse reply feel more authentic? Why does the sentence we should not send sometimes feel like the real one? This is where Xunzi becomes useful. Xunzi, spelled Xunzi, was a Chinese philosopher who lived during the Warring States period, more than 2,000 years ago. This was a time of political conflict, military competition, and intense debate about how human beings could live together without falling into disorder. Xunzi belonged to the Confucian tradition, but he is remembered for one of the most uncomfortable claims in Chinese philosophy. Human nature is bad. That sounds dark, but Xunzi was not saying that every person is evil in a dramatic way. His point was more precise. Human beings are born with desires. We want comfort, status, approval, advantage, and pleasure. We are quick to protect ourselves when we feel exposed. For Xunzi, these tendencies are natural. The problem begins when we assume that natural means trustworthy. This is why he disagreed with Mencius, another major Confucian thinker. Mencius believed human nature has good beginnings. He compared moral feeling to a sprout. If compassion, shame, and respect are cultivated, they can grow. Xunzi thought that picture was too optimistic. For him, goodness does not simply unfold from the inside. It has to be built. Here he gives us 3 important ideas. The first is Xing, human nature. Xing is what comes with us before training. Desire, sensitivity, appetite, pride, the raw material of being human. The second is wei, deliberate effort. Wei is what we make through learning, habit, correction, and practice. The third is li, ritual or propriety. Li is the structured form that helps raw feeling become livable behavior. These 3 ideas change how we understand the message at work. The first reply belongs to Xing. It comes quickly from irritation and self-defense. The second reply belongs to wei. It has to be made. And the form of the second reply, the pause, the polite opening, the choice to clarify instead of attack, is a small modern version of li. This is not just etiquette. It is self-cultivation in miniature. One of Xunzi's most famous images comes from the opening of the text attributed to him. He says that blue dye comes from the indigo plant, but it becomes bluer than the plant itself. Ice comes from water, but becomes colder than water. The image is simple, but the point is powerful. Human effort can transform what nature gives us. The better thing is not less real because it has been changed. It may become better precisely because it has passed through a process. That is how Xunzi thinks about character. Your first reaction is not meaningless. It tells you something. It says you are tired, embarrassed, maybe afraid that your work is not good enough. But a feeling is not the same as an instruction. The first reaction is raw material. What matters is what happens to it next. Xunzi gives another image. Crooked wood has to be pressed and shaped before it can become straight. A dull piece of metal has to be sharpened before it becomes useful. This can sound severe, but it is also realistic. Most of us do not become better simply by discovering our inner feelings more clearly. Sometimes we know exactly what we feel, and the feeling is still not a good guide. The coworker's message is not difficult because we lack authenticity. It is difficult because untrained authenticity arrives too fast. Modern life often tells us to be real, speak your truth, and stop pretending. There is value in that. A person should not have to live as a mask. But Xunzi would warn us against confusing honesty with moral authority. The angry reply may be honest. It may also be untrained. This is where Li becomes practical. In the Xunzi, ritual is not just old ceremony. It is a human technology for managing desire, emotion, rank, grief, pleasure, and conflict. One example discussed in the tradition around Xunzi is the village wine drinking ceremony. At first, that may sound distant from modern life. But look at what the ceremony is doing. People gather to drink, which could easily become disorderly. The host brings in the honored guest. Participants toast in an order shaped by age and status. The event allows pleasure, but gives it boundaries. When the guest of honor leaves, the host escorts him out, and the gathering comes to a close. The point is not that everyone loves rules. The point is that form allows people to enjoy something without letting it fall apart. That is Li. It does not erase feeling. It gives feeling a shape. Now translate this back into ordinary life. A workplace message is not a wine ceremony, but it has the same problem on a smaller scale. There is emotion in the room, even if the room is just a screen. There is pride, status, uncertainty, and the possibility of conflict. Without form, the strongest impulse moves first. With form, the situation has a better chance. This is why a pause before replying is not trivial. It is a small ritual. So is beginning with the other person's point before defending your own. So is asking, "What part felt unclear?" instead of assuming they are attacking you. These forms may feel artificial at first. Xunzi would say, yes, exactly. Artificial does not mean fake. It means made by human effort. A written sentence is artificial. A classroom is artificial. A court of law is artificial. A promise is artificial. These things are not less human because we invented them. They are part of how human beings become capable of living together. So when you delete the sharp reply, you are not betraying the real self. You are deciding which self to strengthen. This is where Xunzi's idea of flow becomes interesting. Today, we often imagine flow as spontaneous ease, doing what comes naturally without friction. Xunzi gives a different model. The best ease is trained ease. At first, the better action feels slow. You have to notice the impulse, hold it back, and choose words with care. But after enough practice, the better form becomes more available. You still feel irritation. You still dislike being corrected. But the feeling no longer controls the whole exchange. The flow is not the free release of emotion. It is the practiced movement from emotion into judgment. That is why Xunzi is stricter than a simple message about authenticity. He does not say, ignore what you feel. He also does not say, whatever you feel is the truth. He asks what your feelings have been trained by. Have they been trained by speed, pride, and the need to win? Or have they been trained by forms that make conversation possible? This is the practical question. When a coworker criticizes your paragraph, what kind of person have your habits prepared you to become in that moment? Someone who protects pride first? Or someone who can keep the work, the relationship, and the truth in view at the same time? For Xunzi, That second person is not born automatically. That person is made through Wei, guided by Li, working on Xing. This may be less comforting than saying, just be yourself. But it is also more hopeful. Because if the first version of yourself is not always wise, you are not trapped there. The irritated reply is not destiny. It is material. The pause is a tool. The better sentence is practice. And over time, practice changes what feels natural. So the next time the message arrives, the question is not only, what do I honestly feel? The question is also, what has this feeling learned? Xunzi's answer is demanding, but clear. Do not confuse the first voice inside you with the final truth about who you are. A self can be trained. A reaction can be shaped. And sometimes the most authentic thing you can do is not to express the first impulse, but to become the kind of person whose impulses have been educated.